I am your host, Tari Butler, and welcome to the Mom Keys to Mental Peace podcast, where we empower millennial mothers to cultivate a deeper connection with God, nurture their mental well being, and prioritize family care without sacrificing their own identity. Get ready to unlock secrets to mental peace and spiritual fulfillment. Whether you're striving for personal growth, professional success, or a more fulfilling family life, our podcast offers valuable insights to help you level up your lifestyle God's way. Ready to level up? Let's do it. All right, you all. So, hey, welcome back to another podcast episode. I'm so excited to be here with you all another week. If you are new here, hey, sis, welcome. I am so happy to have you join the family. And if you are an OG who taps in weekly, welcome back, sis. I'm so happy to have you back for another week. So, I'm excited to get into all of the things today. Our episode today is titled When No Means Love, Biblical Wisdom for Setting Boundaries with Your Children. So this episode, I would like to think of it as a continuation from where we left off last week, where I talked about how to depend on God in our parenting. And one of the last tips that I gave was us being able to retreat and refill. Right. I gave a lot of scripture about how in the Gospels, it was pointed out how Jesus was intentional about retreating from those around him, especially after events of him pouring himself out. And he would go away to a silent place and pray to God to be refilled back up. And one thing that, triggered the idea for this episode of how to set boundaries with our children, because I was like, I can hear the mamas now as I'm giving that advice, like, girl, I cannot get away from my kids. They're always around me. I don't have any type of space or boundaries or time to be able to do something like that. And then to confirm this episode even more, I presented a poll to my audience on social media with 2 episode options, and this one by a landslide was the top one. So apparently we all, myself included, need some help when it comes to setting boundaries with our children. So let's get into it. Not too long ago, y'all, I made a Facebook post that was encouraging to parents who have a hard time setting and sticking to boundaries when it comes to their children. But in particular, I was talking about toddlers, right? So I shared how I get it. I understand that it is easier to just let your children or your toddler or whoever just engage in certain things that may not necessarily be healthy. So it may be easier to just let your child binge watch their tablet because they're being quiet and leaving you alone. Or it may be easier to just allow your child to binge eat a bunch of snacks and juice and all of that because they're not eating their dinner and you want them to eat something. And if you don't give them that snack, then they're crying and hollering and throwing a tantrum, right? And that's the key area right there where I feel like we struggle at is that tantrum mode, that them being upset at being told no. So we give into them, right? To avoid the meltdowns that can last anywhere from 5 minutes all the way up to 50 minutes. It just depends on your child. Some kids are they have strong endurance when it comes to a meltdown. Like they'll sit in that thing for a while. And so that's why I was getting at, like, the things that you desire, life, whatever. You have been told no at some point. You haven't been told yes about everything and given everything that you wanted. Okay. So my experience when it comes to this, preparing these notes, I just reflected on like, what did boundaries look like as my childhood? So I've been very transparent here on this platform, how growing up, my parents and their parenting style was extremely passive. Okay. Extremely laid back. They didn't really get on me about much. I was kind of able to come and go as I pleased. I was able to do and not do whatever I wanted. There were not necessarily any boundaries that were put in place for me. So I recently saw something that said that parents are more lenient with their youngest child of the family, i.e., rarely told no, i.e., rarely any boundaries enforced or put in place for the youngest child. And y'all, that was me. That was the case for me. So all of my siblings, when I was an infant, newborn baby, were already from the ages of 12 to 21 years old. I have three siblings. I have a sister on my mom's side and a sister and a brother on my dad's side from his first marriage before my mom. So they were already teenagers, young adults, the 21-year-old. I mean, you might as well say an adult. Like, they were already grown, okay? So when it came to me, this newborn baby, after they've already kind of done parenting for some years now, there were just no boundaries put in place. Like the information that I saw or the statistic that I saw rang true in my life. So there were no boundaries put in place for me when it comes to me eating food. I could eat however many snacks I wanted. My parents had McDonald's money, and my mama wasn't a big cook. Like, she can cook, but it was very rare that every night we ate a home cooked meal. We were in them restaurants, okay? We was in the drive-through line. So there were no boundaries when it came to food. There were no boundaries to what I watched on TV or how often I watched things on TV. There was no boundaries when it came to dating and friend groups. In high school, y'all, my mom would take me to, I mean, he's now my husband, but then she would take me to his house, y'all. Like, of course, she talked to his mom agreed, whatever, but there were no boundaries even in that. It was like, oh, you want to go over here? Okay, cool, I'll drop you off. And of course, we were in there being inappropriate. But like, I'm just trying to set the scene of how there were no boundaries put in place for my life. And there were no boundaries as far as my grades. So I was kind of like a middle average student. Like, I wasn't excelling and making all these straight A's and in honors classes, but I wasn't failing and making D's and F's either. I was like right in the middle. But at the same time, there was no expectation about grades. There was no conversation about grades. There was no consequences as a result of grades. I was kind of self-motivated when it came to that area. But again, just laying the foundation of there were no real boundaries or expectations for those areas. So also to remember or keep in mind, y'all, that my parents were a lot older when I was born. So they were more established and had more resources to give at the time that I was born. So they probably felt like they were doing the right thing based on the circumstances. Okay. This was early 90s. Okay. I'm a 92 baby. And it just seemed like things financially in the world were just different. My mom was a school teacher. My dad had a job at a mental health hospital. And he was also like into side hustles and stuff. Like, he always had some type of cash flow or money going on. My parents had luxury cars. We stayed in a house that there was a mortgage paid for. Like, life was good, from outside looking in. So they were probably taking a different approach with me than they did with my older siblings when it came to parenting. Okay. So I feel like they probably approached me like a second chance at parenting, similar to how y'all know how grandparents just seem to have this new wave of patience and kindness with their grandchildren. And we'd be looking at them like, where did all this come from? Where did this patience come from? So I feel like in my situation, being that my older siblings were already teenagers, young adults and things like that, they kind of treated me like the grandchild, quote unquote, since I was younger. And just things were a lot more lenient and not as much pressure on me being the youngest child, if that makes sense. Okay. So essentially, I feel like when it came to their parenting style with my older siblings versus me, they overcorrected, which turned into them having this punishment free type of parenting lifestyle. Okay. Because they didn't want to be too harsh on me, or simply they might not have had the energy to intentionally parent and discipline me. Okay. Especially since, as an adult, and I think about the mental health state of both of my parents, I can see why they were as lenient as they were now and not as intentional and the point that I had about them maybe not having the energy or the tools or the know-how of how to discipline and parent intentionally. Okay. I was very manipulative as a child. Whenever I was told no, so I would cry dramatically. I can remember as a teenager, like if my mom tried to say I couldn't go somewhere, child, I would walk around the house sighing, on the phone with friends, like, man, she said I can't go, and just being extra. Anytime that my mom did try to discipline me, I felt like I manipulated her with my emotions, which made her uncomfortable in my discomfort of emotions. And usually, 9 times out of 10, she would break whatever discipline that she had in place. So I know it's a lot of people who probably were put on punishment a lot. That's not my story. Okay. Anytime punishment was implemented, it probably lasted a day or two. And then I was able to weasel my way out of punishment. Case in point, it was one night me and my homegirl I stole my mom's car, went and picked her up, y'all. Okay. When I got back home, my mama was in the living room sleep waiting on me. So she ain't called. She ain't say nothing like, bring my car back. I know you out. She was just in the living room sleep waiting on me. Now, I was in trouble that night and that next day. You can't go nowhere. I can't believe you, whatever. The punishment was put in place. Y'all, by the end of that week, I was back at my friend's house scheming and planning something else. Like she just didn't stick to the discipline or endure through those uncomfortable moments. So I can admit that I was manipulative and able to weasel my way out. But I feel like the foundation of this started in childhood when it came to me being manipulative because I wanted more snacks. Or, yes, I got the chicken nuggets, but I wanted the burger too. Why are you telling me no, I can't have both? I want both. Or when we're in the store and I see something I want, crying and throwing a fit in the store because I want it. So, again, it started at a younger age and it just looked different the older that I got. So, when it comes to this, lack of boundaries and overcorrecting and punishment-free parenting style, I feel like we are seeing a lot of this today, but we are disguising it and calling it gentle parenting. Okay. So I just want to take a detour here and touch on how we tend to overcorrect when it comes to parenting. So I want to share the effects of overcorrecting when it comes to driving a car. Okay. Overcorrection in a car is making an abrupt or excessive steering adjustments, okay? As a result, this can lead to a loss of control. So overcorrecting in your car can lead to a vehicle spinning out of control. This can also lead to a vehicle losing traction. So the sudden change in the steering direction can cause the tires to lose traction, which makes it difficult to steer the vehicle in the desired direction. Okay. Why does overcorrection happen? It happens as an instinctive reaction to avoid a perceived threat. But the sudden change in direction can destabilize the car and make it difficult to regain control. Distractions, such as looking at your phone or being involved in a conversation, can make it harder for drivers to anticipate and respond smoothly to a change in direction. Another reason for overcorrection is inexperience. Drivers who are new or inexperienced may not have the skills to make smooth and precise steering adjustments, which leads to overcorrection. And the last and final reason for overcorrection is due to fear and panic. In stressful situations, drivers may panic and overcorrect, leading to loss of control. Now, with all of those examples when it comes to overcorrecting in a car, when we overcorrect in parenting, we see some of these same things. So when you overcorrect in parenting because, say, your parenting style, your parents were very harsh, they were very strict, you felt like they had too many boundaries and you just couldn't do anything, and you made a promise to yourself, that will not be the case with my children. I'm going to let them have some leeway. I'm going to allow them to do certain things. I'm going to allow them to, get away with certain things. I'm not going to be as harsh on them or as strict on them. Like, I'm going to loosen the leash a little bit. Well, that's where we can see a loss of control. So similar to the car, this is where you see some children that start to lose control as a result of there being no boundaries or restraints or expectations for them. Also, it pointed out inexperience. So drivers who are new or inexperienced may not have the skills to make a smooth or precise steering adjustment, which can lead to overcorrection. So maybe you're a new parent, right? Maybe your parents weren't involved at all, and you don't have any experience of what it looks like to have healthy boundaries with your children, to have a healthy balance of discipline and correction, along with, fun and friendship and understanding and things like that. So due to you not having the information, you're trying to figure it out yourself. You don't have any experience in this area. So you overcorrect or go overboard, which can cause issues in the relationship. So I thought that was a very good explanation, that we can see the comparison of the dangers of overcorrecting in a car. And then another point too, like, is you're doing it as a natural instinct, like you're sensing a fear or panic. And a lot of us can have that as parents, like this fear of our children not liking us, or this fear of being too harsh on them or being too mean to them, to where we're afraid that they may not want to be around us, or that we may harm them, or whatever the case may be. And it can go the other way. Sometimes the boundaries can be too overbearing, where it's like that helicopter parent, and you don't allow any type of wiggle room. And this is where it reminds me of like that scripture about, walking on the path of holiness is like a narrow way versus this wide highway to hell. And I just feel like when it comes to doing things God's way, it's just so narrow. Like, it's just so like, what is this middle ground? Because you want to have boundaries and protection in place, but you also don't want it to be so tight and so restricted that they don't have any room to move or to be a human or to make a mistake and to fall and learn lessons. So one example of overcorrection in my home that I have experienced is in the relationship with my husband and our teenage son, specifically when it comes to sports and athletics. So my husband's father was not present during his childhood athletic career. My husband was into football. He was into AAU sports most of his childhood. And he has shared plenty of times that his father was not present. Specifically, that's what he brings up. Like, he wasn't at my games. He didn't come to my practice. Like, he just was not there specifically for this area of his life. Okay. So my husband today, as a father of a teenage boy, he takes pride in being present with our son since he has started playing sports as young as 5 years old. He has signed him up for all of the trainings, for all of the teams, for all of the camps, all the things that can be offered for an athletic student. Child, my husband is on it and signs our son up for it. He has bought all the equipment needed. He has been very present at every single practice, every single game, every single workout. He has been there. So he takes pride in that, and he is overcorrecting, as I'm getting ready to get into, what he felt was a deficiency in his father and son relationship. Okay. So my husband did not realize the pressure that it put on our son to perform. Yes, it is good to be present. Okay. But the level of presence turned into suffocation. And they currently had a conversation with each other, y'all. This is like an answered prayer in my home and in my family. But they currently had a conversation where he was able to realize that he doesn't have to overcorrect in this specific area of our life, of his life. So my son advocated for himself. They had a man-to-man conversation and was very vocal with him and spoke up about how his father's expectations affects his performance, his emotions, and his mental health when it comes to athletics and sports. So I would see, like, and I think this is why it's important to have a two-parent household, to have two different perspectives on a situation. So, of course, I'm looking at the situation from a mental health standpoint, from an emotional well-being standpoint. Like, yes, you are being present. And I would get ridiculed for that anytime that I would try to bring up to my husband, like, I feel like you're being a little hard. I feel like you're overdoing it. Especially like there was a season where my son would just be signed up for multiple sports, like an AAU team, the school team, training for football, like just constantly something going on in regards to sports and athletics. And when I would bring it up, my husband immediately would get defensive, like, so you're mad because I'm being a good father. So you're mad because I'm signing him up and getting him involved in all these things. And I had to explain to my husband, like, yes, your father wasn't there and that was your lifestyle. My husband grew up in a single parent household where it was just him and his mom. Yes, he has a sister on his father's side, but she didn't live with them. So essentially, it was just him and his mom. And I had to explain to my husband, like, look, we are a family of 5. So all this ripping and running up and down the road, throwing all this money to these trainings, these teams and equipment, that doesn't make sense for our family right now. Yes, that made sense for you then, but that doesn't make sense for our family. And that's why I say it was like an answered prayer, because it was just like a block. Like all he could see was the overcorrection, the panic, the fear. I need to be present. I need to be doing this. I need to make sure that I'm filling in the gap where there was a hole from my father. So, again, this was an answered prayer. And it just all goes back, y'all, to us trying to do or undo an experience that we didn't like with our parents when it comes to overcorrection. Okay. So there is a post that I saw on Instagram, and it was titled "Boundaries I've Set Today with My Children That Made Them Unhappy." And the IG profile is from a child therapist. Her name is Jess, and her company is called Nurtured First Parenting. So I'll put her information in the show notes for you to check out her page. Lots of great parenting information and content there. So she posted like a thread of a series of events when it came to boundaries that she set with her children that day. I just want to go through each one because, y'all, this is just so good. Okay. So the first one, I went to Starbucks and only got a drink for my friend and I. We packed the kids some water from home. They wanted hot chocolate and we said no. While doing groceries or going grocery shopping, my daughter saw a stuffed pig that she thought was so adorable. She begged me to let her have it. I said no and reminded her that the plan was to get groceries. After swimming with my kids for a long time, I told them it was time to get out of the pool. They wanted to keep swimming, but I was freezing and I needed to make dinner. I held my boundary. My daughter wanted to watch TV, but it was beautiful outside. I told her that it wasn't TV time and she needed to play outside instead. After all of these incidents, one or all of my kids were upset with me, and that is okay. I can handle it. This is a part of the punishment-free parenting that isn't talked about enough. Our job isn't to make our kids happy all the time. It's okay for them to be disappointed in our boundaries or rules. It is okay to set boundaries that protect your emotional health and financial well-being. Our goal is to teach our kids that they are capable of coping with disappointment and handling life when it's unfair. Y'all, that was so good when I saw that, because some of these things I have been implementing with my family, specifically on the part where she says it's okay to set boundaries to protect your emotional health and financial well-being. So, for example, the part about the swimming where she was like, hey, I'm cold. And, I have in my mind that I still have to prepare dinner. I have to do all these things. Hey, it's time to go. It's time to get out the pool. And what do kids do? No, can we stay longer? 5 more minutes, all this, that, and the third. But when it comes to the emotional well-being part, I think about me in that situation. Look, I'm uncomfortable out here. I've let you play for an extended amount of time. So she said they were already out there swimming for a long time. It is time to go. I am sticking to my boundary. I have other things that I need to do. You have had fun. It's time to go. So what this looks like for me, especially at the playground, I already let my kids know, child, and I'm big on a timer. Okay. My timers and a timer in my life is like a support, I don't know, a support animal for me, for a lack of words. Like, I let my kids know, hey, we got 45 minutes today. We got an hour today. We got 30 minutes today. And I've done this so much over time when we go to the playground or wherever that they understand when that timer goes off to protect my emotional well-being, I need you to come on. It's no back and forth. It's no, can we stay longer? It's no crying and whining. You have had your time. It is time to go. And then for the part about the financial well-being, my children already know. I've spoke about this plenty of times on the podcast. I make a list for everything that is needed in our home. It's an ongoing list that I keep. When we run out of something, I add it to the list. If it's something I see that we need, I add it to the list. So y'all know that Black mama term. When we go in this store, don't ask me for nothing. Okay, that is my approach, but in a more gentle parenting way. In this way, so my kids know when they ask for stuff in the store, hey, that is not on my list. I'm not getting it. Like she told her child when she wanted that stuffed animal, I'm not buying that. Remember, we are in here for groceries. The goal is groceries. Okay. And you have to remind your kids, you got toys at home. If it's a toddler, they probably got 50, 11 toys in the car that they brought with them from out the house. Okay, stick to your boundary. If you have a budget with your finances, don't just go picking up random things. Oh, it's just $5. Oh, it's just $7. No, they can accept no. They don't have to have something every single time you go to the store. Okay. Now, the mean way is don't ask for nothing, don't touch nothing, but there's some truth to that. Hey, I'm in here for a specific thing. My boundary is I'm only getting the things that I came in here for. And while that's a word for our kids, that can be a word for ourselves too. When we get in there and get to letting Target and Walmart tell us what to put in our cart. No. Have your boundary and stick to it of what you went in there for. You're on a mission to get what you need. We're not just in here browsing and picking up random things. So I thought this was really, really good information. A beautiful example that she shared in that thread of different things that parents have put their boundary up for that sometimes we feel guilty for. I've had to set a boundary, and I know she gave the Starbucks example. Sometimes if I want to get me something from Starbucks or I want something sweet, and it's like, sometimes I won't go because it's like, dang, now I got to get everybody something. Something that would have been $5 is get ready to turn into $25. And I just don't want to spend that right now. But I do want something, right? So I may get me ice cream, but hey, we got ices and popsicles at home that y'all can have. Right now, this is something I want that I'm going to get for me. So we have to get into the mindset where it's okay for us to tell our children no. They don't have to always be a part of something that we have going on. I've recently had some events that I've done with some women that I'm friends with where we did a hiking trip. And of course, my daughter, I want to go. I want to go. Well, no, you cannot go today. There are no children invited to this. This is for grown women who pay bills. Okay. Children are not invited. I love you and I will see you when I get home. Period. Okay. So per usual, I have some biblical, wisdom or connection on the lessons that the woman shared here. So it's important to teach our children how to cope with disappointment and handling life when it feels unfair, because they will experience these moments in life and in their walk with God. We will experience these moments of disappointment and feeling like things aren't fair in our walk with God. So y'all, this is why so many people walk away from the faith due to disappointment. Disappointment that God didn't answer their prayer or do something the way they wanted him to do it, when they wanted him to do it, and how they wanted him to do it. They done got in their feelings and got upset with him and walked away and threw a hissy fit like, I'm not doing this Christian walk anymore. Or, I'm not doing this Christian life anymore because I wanted XYZ and he didn't do it for me. So what's the point in serving him? Okay. When it comes to that, okay, that type of behavior breeds entitlement. What is entitlement? The fact of having a right to do something, belief that one is deserving of certain privileges. Okay, let's take a walk to Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8, and this is in the Amplified Version. For it is by grace, God's remarkable compassion and favor drawing you to Christ, that you have been saved, actually delivered from judgment and given eternal life through faith. And this salvation is not of yourselves, not through your own effort. Here it is, but it is the undeserved gracious gift of God. So when we get into this entitlement, us or our children feeling like, well, I deserve this or I have to have this, it's given entitlement. And the scripture says that his grace was undeserved. It's an undeserved gift from God. There was nothing that we did to earn it. We didn't, act like a straight A student or checked all the marks or did all the things. It was only Jesus that did that, not us, which is why we need him. So when it comes to that entitlement, it just really gets under my nerves. Having an attitude of entitlement is seen as rude, disrespectful, ungrateful, and unpleasant. There's nothing worse than an ungrateful child. As us as a parent and our children and us in our Christian walk with God, like that behavior, that attitude is so ugly. So Jackie Hill Perry, who I followed, she made a post not too long ago about her daughter asking for something. She told her no. And I think she said something back rude. Well, Jackie was like, she told her daughter, you can be disappointed, but you can't be disrespectful. And I think that's like a mic drop comment right there. Like, I get that you're disappointed. That's a part of being human. But what we're not going to do is be disrespectful, be entitled, get to acting out and saying any type of crazy thing. That's not what's going to happen here. So did you know that there are several people in the Bible who experience disappointment? Moses, despite his role in leading the Israelites out of Egypt, was denied entry into the promised land because of his disobedience and striking a rock instead of speaking to it. This can be found in Numbers chapter 20, verse 12, that says, "But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I am giving them." This had to be a very disappointing feeling to guide these people right out of Egypt, get all the way close to the promised land after all this time, after all these years. And God says, no, you are not going in due to your disobedience. Job, if you go to the book of Job, he lost everything, including his family, his wealth, and health. But eventually he found a way to reconcile with God despite his suffering. So Job had to experience disappointment in losing all of these things. And if you read the book of Job, it happened, bam, at the beginning of the book, just back to back to back, him losing things. And the majority of the book is him lamenting over it. Some of his so-called friends or people trying to speak to him and convince him like, well, you must have did something wrong. Everybody putting their 2 cents in on why it happened. But at the end of the chapter, God is telling him like, I'm God. I'm the creator of all of this. I'm sovereign. I'm in control, right? I am the reason that all of these things happen. I am the reason, right? You may not understand. You may not know why, but I am in control of it. Yes, you may be disappointed. Yes, you may be sad about it. I hear you. I hear your heart and I see that you're disappointed. But at the end of the day, I'm in control. Okay. So I advise you, go read the book of Job. And ultimately, y'all, Jesus experienced disappointment when he was on the cross and asked God, why had he forsaken him? This is in Matthew chapter 27, verse 46. At about 3:00, Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema shakabanati." I don't know how to pronounce that, which means, my God, why have you abandoned me?" So even Jesus experienced disappointment. But y'all, despite the disappointment that they experience and that we will experience, when God says no, we have to remember that God's ways and thoughts are higher than our ways and thoughts. So while Jesus was on the cross, he already knew the mission, okay? Keep in mind, he was God who came down to live a life as a man. So he was God and man at the same time. So he knew why he had to be on the cross. Yet and still, he still faced disappointment. Why, God, have you forsaken me? Why is this the way that this has to be done? But as he said in the Garden of Gethsemane, not my will, okay? Not my will, but your will be done however you want it to happen. So going back to, we have to understand that God's ways are higher than ours, which I feel like I have said that just about every episode. That verse is Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 through 9, which says, "My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord, and my ways are far beyond anything that you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than yours, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." So when it comes to disappointment and it comes to God's no about certain things, we don't always understand because we are not on his level. This is not that, okay? This is the case when it comes to the boundaries that we set with our children that they may not like. You may not understand why I'm telling you no, you can't spend the night at that friend's house. You may not understand why I'm telling you no, you can't ride in the car with that friend from school or to that party. You may not get it. It may be disappointing right now, but as a parent, our ways are higher than our children. We're supposed to have more wisdom and knowledge than them as we are growing them and cultivating them and guiding them in this life as children. Another scripture that complements this is that God disciplines those that he loves. In Hebrews chapter 12, verses 5 through 11, "And have you forgotten the encouraging words God spoke to you as his children? He said, 'My child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline, and don't give up when he corrects you or sets a boundary. For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one he accepts as his child.'" So if you have boundaries from God, if he is disciplining you, if he's on you, it's because he loves you. This makes me think about Love and Basketball with Monica and her coach, where the coach is always on her, always getting on her. And they have a moment after one of the games where she asks the coach in the locker room, like, "Why are you always on me?" And she was like, "Do you think I'll waste my voice on a player with no potential?" Like, it's because you're under my covering, because I know what is inside of you, because I'm trying to protect you and grow you and guide you in the right way. Verse 7 of this verse says, "As you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Who ever heard of a child who was never disciplined by his father? Who ever heard of a child who never has boundaries put in place for them? If God doesn't discipline you as he does all of his children, it means that you are illegitimate and are not really his children at all. Since we respected our earthly fathers who disciplined us, shouldn't we submit even more to the discipline of the Father of our spirits and live forever? For our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing the best they knew how. But God's discipline is always good for us." I want to say that again. But God's discipline is always good for us, so that we might share in his holiness. Here it is. "No discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. No boundary is enjoyable while it's happening. Your child wants that toy. No, that doesn't feel good to be told no. Your child wants to continue playing. No, it doesn't feel good to be told no when you just want to do something, right? It's not enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful, but afterwards, okay, sis, this is where you have to endure through the no. Afterwards, there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way." And this goes back to my point at the beginning of the episode. When we don't endure the discipline or the pain that comes with the discipline with our children, excuse me, then there is no peaceful harvest on the other side of it. The harvest is havoc, is a mess, is them being disrespectful, them being difficult in the classroom, as a teenager, as an adult. right? It's a spiral, so it can go either way. Sis, I encourage you to hang in there, okay? To endure, to place those boundaries, to discipline, so that there will be a peaceful harvest of right living on the other side of it, okay? So just some key points to remember as we come to a close. When it comes to our children, allow all feelings, okay? We have to help our children know that we hear them when they are in a moment of frustration or not understanding. So, like for my kids, if I say it's time to go and they want to keep playing, I hear that you want to play. I hear that you're having so much fun. And also, it is time to go. We'll come back another day. All right. So, if you are able to, and this is where I think the shift in parenting from old school to us millennials, if you are able to explain why you are holding this boundary. Now, I like how I pointed out here, if you're able to, because some things, it just ain't no explanation. Okay. It's because I said so. Or maybe you don't have the time or the energy to explain. But if you do have the time, then I think that it's appropriate to explain, because it kind of helps them to accept the boundary a little better. They may not fully understand it. I mean, it could be something you all talk through. It could be a teachable moment, in that moment. But if you're able to, I would encourage you to, explain based on the circumstance. We need to let our children know that it's okay to be upset or disappointed, and that we will be there to help them tolerate their feelings. So, I saw a Facebook post. It was a video where this toddler was having a really bad tantrum after their mom told them no. So in the video, the mom is sitting on the floor with the toddler. The toddler's crying, running back and forth, having a tantrum. But the mom did not walk away or try to talk to the toddler in that moment about their feelings. The mom simply sat with the toddler. So the text in the video is the mom explaining that something she's doing differently in raising her toddler is sticking to her no. Even though the toddler had a tantrum, she stuck to her boundary. It's okay for babies and toddlers to cry or for teens to be upset with us. They are learning how to process big emotions. When we give in every time they cry, their survival brain learns crying will get me what I want. This is what I shared earlier about my experience. But if we stay calm, hold the boundary, and stay close, they learn I can be upset and still be loved. I can't always get what I want, but I am still safe. This breeds emotional resilience, okay? We have to operate with boundaries and love the same way that God does with us. So our job, mamas, is not to fix the feelings, okay? Feelings will come and go. Our job is to help our children name the feelings, learn that they can cope with them, and see that this feeling won't last forever. A lot of people struggle with this truth when it comes to uncomfortable feelings like sadness, loss, or disappointment. They feel like this is the end all and be all, and there's no hope on the other side of it. It's okay to feel sad. That's a part of being a human. It's okay to feel disappointment. It won't last forever. It's uncomfortable right now, but if you just stick in that discomfort for a little while, on the other side of it, there will be peace. Okay? So our affirmation for today: I am a loving, intentional mother, and setting boundaries today helps my children grow into emotionally resilient and spiritual